Hello, my name is Megan Wilson, and in this video, I am going to be addressing a couple of questions that I've been asked in regards to our content for Deaf Awareness Week. I previously did a talk with one of my colleagues on my experience with hearing loss. And it was a really rewarding session that I shared with my colleagues, and I'm excited to be given the opportunity to share this to a wider audience. So as I mentioned, I'm Megan. I am a talent engagement coordinator here at Opencast. I've been here for 11 months and I have a condition called otosclerosis. This is where my stapes bones are deformed and therefore they don't transmit sound frequencies the way a healthy stapes would. This has led to me being diagnosed with severe hearing loss in both ears at the age of 20, and I got my hearing aids in 2021. Um, a bit of my kind of issues that I had was that I was always kind of labeled as loud in my late teens, um, which I never understood because I never felt that I was loud. And it wasn't until I got my diagnosis that I actually realized I was. I don't have very good kind of volume control when I don't wear my hearing aids. And that was something I never actually realized would be an issue. And when I first got them, I was almost too shy to speak because I could hear myself. And that wasn't something that was, it wasn't something I had to be aware of necessarily, is I think the way to put it there. Um, when I was diagnosed, I had to unfortunately face a lot of hard news. Um, so when I had my diagnosis in kind of 2020, 2021, I was informed that my condition is progressive, which means that over time my hearing will kind of completely decline. And with the level that I'm already at, it is very likely that I will have full hearing loss and will become deaf by the time I'm in my 30s, which for a 20-year-old was very hard to hear, ironically. And I think initially when I heard that, I didn't think about it because I had so much information coming at me that day. And it wasn't until, later that day, the next day, that I realized I didn't know how much time I had until I would never hear the voices of my family again. I wouldn't hear, anything, even if it is as it was then, muffled. But it also allowed me a new lease on life. When I first got my hearing aids in, I think I spent 20 minutes just standing outside staring at a tree because I hadn't heard leaves blowing in the wind for years. I couldn't remember the last time I'd heard that. And it was things like that that really shocked me. Having a kind of slow onset of hearing loss, which started probably in my early teens, had kind of conditioned me not to realize these things. So it was a very emotional kind of initial experience, both good and bad, when I first got my diagnosis. And when I did get that, I did actually notice a kind of big impact in how I was treated. Um, when I obviously got my diagnosis, we were just kind of coming out with the first lockdown from COVID. I worked in hospitality then, and I worked in a coffee shop, which is very noisy. Working with the coffee machines, when people were having masks as well, it made hearing very difficult before and even when I did have my hearing aids at that point. One kind of encounter that has stayed with me was where I had to ask a customer to repeat themselves, and they quite aggressively asked, "What are you, deaf?" And I got the pleasure of saying, "I am," and then showing him my hearing aids. So that was quite kind of entertaining for myself. But I was also quite annoyed that I had to kind of make the excuse or not, or even just prove that I actually do have hearing loss. Um, and before I got my hearing aids, I actually had to ask permission for my manager if I could wear a badge that said, "I have hearing loss. Please speak clearly." Because I was getting almost hourly comments from customers about my inability to hear. Um, in comparison to working at Opencast, it's been amazing. Obviously, I am now kind of fully comfortable with my hearing and my hearing aids, and I've become more comfortable in being able to ask for accommodations or even just being able to kind of share information on how people can help me. Um, I use a lot of the kind of inbuilt tools in kind of hybrid working, like captions on videos, and all these little helpful tips that people usually don't think about. Um, Obviously, they have their hit and miss. If people talk over each other, I can't pick up on it or follow as long as easy. Um, and again, if people cover their mouths in videos, I struggle to sometimes lip read, which I do fall back on if I have to. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I faced about having hearing loss is that everybody who is either deaf or has hearing loss uses sign language. I've actually had somebody try to kind of speak to me in sign language, and I had to inform them that I don't use it. Well, it is an amazing skill to have, and it makes the kind of day of anybody who does use sign language. Not everybody does. Um, I think it's up to personal preference, and maybe ask if that's a kind of applicable to somebody. Don't just assume. If we're talking about kind of like overall tips, I would have to say just communicate with somebody. No one with hearing loss or deafness has the same needs. Some people will use sign language, some people will not. Some people will have hearing aids, some people won't. And sometimes people might not like to use them because they're just not comfortable. So rather than feeling that a deaf person has to kind of cater to your comfort, and by that, what I mean by that is, saying, "Oh, Megan doesn't have her hearing aids in today, I have to yell at her." Um, Try and maybe just stand a little bit closer, speak clearly, speak slowly. You don't need to yell. Maybe just raise your voice a little, but don't shout because that's actually incredibly frustrating. Um, I think you just have to take it by play. Everybody's different, and just having a level of communication and having that discussion on what they want and how you can help them would make such a difference to kind of misconceptions and how people live with hearing loss and deafness. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this, and I hope that I've given you some food for thought or have encouraged you to kind of reach out to people who you know and how you can help make their lives easier. Thank you again.